Hello friends, myself Dr. Awadhesh. Students, welcome to our new lecture that's on producers equilibrium with the help of the IsoQuant curve. Students, as we know that IsoQuant curve is those curve who showing the various combinations of a producer while using the various combination of X and Y factor. X means the labor and Y means the capital. It means it is a possibilities, it is a concept, or it is a proportion by whom the producer are be able to get the equiproductions by using the various combination, various ratio of the capital and the labor. Now when we are going to discuss about the producer equilibrium means those situations where the entrepreneur, where the producer are we get the best ever productions. Equilibrium shows the best combination of the productions. Students, before going to discuss about the producer's equilibrium, students, we must recall the similar concept of consumer's equilibrium. On our previous lecture, students, we must be discuss about the consumer's equilibrium. Students, consumer's equilibrium may be defined and this word where the consumer are we get the best satisfactions while expanding a limit of expense, limit of the money, or is in a similar word, in a simple word we can say, students, where the budget line of consumers are be touches by the IC curve is the best combination or best equilibrium point of a consumer. In the same way, students, when we are going to discuss about the producer's equilibrium, producer equilibrium are be established or be made on those situations where the budget line, it means the offer line, it means the IsoCost line will touches by the IsoQuant curve, or we can say ISO product curve. So this is the concept of producer's equilibrium. Student, the producer's equilibrium is just similar to the consumer's equilibrium, but the basic difference is between these two. While while detailing the consumer's equilibrium, we must be focused on the consumption of two commodities, and in this we are focusing on the resources of producers, or we can say two resources for the productions, that is the capital and the labor. So I think this is the enough introduction, this is enough hints for the producer's equilibrium. You must be take the reference from the previous lecture, and now we start the details of the producer's equilibrium. Before defining it, students, those students who are newly be joining these groups, they must be have to subscribe it, and also the students to suggest your friends for subscribing these channels. Students, if you have benefited from this lecture, you must be have to like it and extend this family to your other friends group, students. And you must put on your roll numbers and names in the comment box by whom your attendance will be marked, students. Now, students, let's start the our lectures, which are based on producer's equilibrium with the help of the IsoQuant curve, student. For detailing, students, every producer wants to harmonize the various factors of productions in such a way that the total cost of the productions for a given level of the productions is minimized. Where the productions cost is minimized, the entrepreneur RB get the maximum output. The entrepreneur RB get the maximum profit. As the same, students, producers where consumers where have to expense minimum amount of the expenses and get the maximum possible consumptions choices, or we can say some combinations, they are get the maximum satisfaction. The same while where they are the producer have to expense minimum and get the maximum production is providing the more satisfaction, is providing the more profit to the producers. IsoQuant curves are very useful or very helpful in the fulfillment of this objectives, because without the IsoQuant curve we are not to be able to identify what the output, what the quantity of the outputs are be obtained by the producer restaurants. In fact, the order to achieve a certain level of the output, there are many alternative means combinations before the producers by whom the entrepreneur are be get the equilibrium restaurants. Output curve, or we can say the IsoQuant curve, help the producers in giving such a combinations that he can produce maximum output in a minimum cost. Such a combinations of means is called the best or optimal combinations of means. In other words, students, IsoQuant curve help the firms in achieving equilibrium in the same way as indifference curve helps to consumer, helps the consumer in achieving equilibrium. As earlier definition, students, as earlier description, we have to explain it that IsoQuant curve is just similar to the indifference curve, and the producer's equilibrium by the IsoQuant and the IsoCost curve is just similar to the equilibrium of the consumer with the help of budget line and the help of IC curve, indifference curve. The followings are needed for a firms to attain equilibrium or find the optimum combinations of a factor A. We have to consider two things, that is the IsoQuant map and the IsoCost line. On our earlier lecture, students, we have to focus on the IsoQuant map, but here we have to focus a small brief about the IsoQuant map, students. IsoQuant map shows a set of ISO productions curve. There are just like countered lines which shows the different level of the output. A higher ISO product curves represent a higher level of the output. It given diagram ISO product curve, each representing a particular level of the output. Now you see the picture, students, the IQ1 showing the productions of 1000 unit, and IQ2 is showing the productions of 200 units, and IQ3 is showing the production of 300 units. In the points, students, IQ1, either the producers are be sustained on the point this, point this, or point this. It means in every point, either they are surviving or either they are equilibrating on this point or this point or this point or everywhere on IQ1 student. They must have to get the equiproduction, and that production is 100 unit student. Similarly, if we are discussing about the IQ2, it means in this curve, students, the producers are be able to get the output 2000 unit while expanding the amount of the resource on this point, this point, this point, or everywhere of this curve, student. Wherever the entrepreneur are be sustained, entrepreneur have to tricking on those circumstances, on those combination, the entrepreneur are be able to get the output of 2000 unit, student. See, while changing the various combinations, if the amount of the capital is on such amount and the amount of the labor is such amount, if they exceed the amount of the labor, then they must have to decrease the amount of the capital. So this is what the combinations, the various combinations, while the entrepreneur are be able to get the equiproductions are be shown, student. So this is the IsoQuant map. IsoQuant map shows the various indifference curve or various proportion, various combinations, various offering of the productions by the producers on various set of the capital and the labor. So this having more than one IsoQuant curve, it is called the IsoQuant map. In this diagram, we are getting more than one IQ curve. It means it is getting three IQ curve. So this is what it is called as the IsoQuant map, students. Now the students, we are focusing on the another one is that is IsoCost line. Student, IsoCost line represent the price of the factor along with the amounts of the money an organization is willing to spend on factor. In other words, it shows different combination of the factor that can be purchased at a certain amount of the money. Say here, if entrepreneur are be expend a set of expenditures, and on those set of expenditure, they have a various combinations of expenses. Either they able to purchase 40 units of the capital but none of the labor. Secondly, they have to able to purchase 35 unit of the capital by this point, and the students 5 unit of the labor, or 30 units of the capital and further 10 units of the labor. Further, student 25 unit of the capital and further 18 unit of the labor. So this is the various combination, or 10 units of the capital and 40 units of the labor. So this is various combinations. What the entrepreneur are able to purchase, what entrepreneur are able to use in their production process, it will be shown by the IsoCost curve. It means having a fixed amount of the cost, what the entrepreneur are able to expense, what entrepreneur are able to arrange the various combination of the capital and the labor is be shown by the IsoQuant line. So IsoQuant line is similar to the budget line of an entrepreneur, what the mentioned by the what the details by the entrepreneur student. Now the students, by the help of this, how can we get the producer's equilibrium point is now be discussed. See, before discussing it by the diagram, we must put on some statement, that is the IsoQuant line and IsoCost lines curves together help are determining the optimum output of a firms. We can achieve productions optimization in two ways. Either we can maximize output for a given outlay, or we can minimize the cost of a product producing a given level of the output. If a firm has decided to achieve a given level of the output, the next step would be to select a combination of factors to achieve this goal. Certainly, rational firms, or we can say regional firms, or we can say optimal firms will choose the least cost combinations, because on the least cost combinations they are able to get the maximized output within the minimized cost. So the least cost combination is tangent to the IsoQuant curve and IsoCost line. It means it is showing that those circumstances, those situations where the producers are be able to get the best equilibrium, where the IsoQuant curve have to touch the IsoCost line. Now see the students, it by the diagram. The diagram is showing here. It is the IsoCost line. We're showing the 14 amount of the capital and 7 amount of the labor, because in the bottom side we are showing the labor resources, on the this side, this is the horizontal side, we are showing the capital resources, and the combination is offering by the IsoCost line This one is showing by the 14th amount of the capital and 7th amount of the labor. Here, students, the entrepreneur have to three combination, and that is A, B, and C. Students, the entrepreneur, if entrepreneur have not options to purchase the to able to bring the upper budget line, upper cost line, then the entrepreneur RB get the equilibrium on the point C, because point A and other point is not to be attainable for the entrepreneur. So in these circumstances, in this situation, the entrepreneur RB basically ever get the production's equilibrium on the point C. But as we say, students, the upper budget line provide the upper cost line provide the maximum productions capacity, upper production capacity of the entrepreneur. And on those conditions, if the entrepreneur has to exceed their expenses from 14.7 cost line, ISO cost line to 2010 ISO cost line. So in this condition, the equilibrium are shifted from C to B. And now it is the best. B is the equilibrium, production's equilibrium point, while an entrepreneur are be able to get the 30 units of the output. Besides this, if the entrepreneur are be selecting the A point and this point, they are be sustained on the upper budget, upper ISO cost line, but this providing the lower production, that is 20. So if they have to expense a lot but get the output lower, then this is not to be, they are not to be satisfied. So in this way, in this order, in this description, students, we must be have to say that consider that the observation of the producer's equilibrium, the upper budget line shows upper ISO cost shows upper expenses, and upper budget upper IsoQuant curve shows the upper production, and the equilibrium of our firms are be sustained on those situations, on those positions where the upper budget line have to touch by the IsoQuant curve. So here the lower IsoQuant curve have not touched, but it is intersect to each other to upper ISO cost. But the upper ISO cost curve, that is Q330, is only touching the ISO cost line on the point B. So the optimum productions point is B. Hence, students, it will be explained by in this word, student, in this diagram, the least cost combination for two different ISO cost curve are defined as a point where the IsoQuant curve are tangent the ISO cost line. Thus, it is clear that for a given output curve, for a given ISO cost curve, ISO product curve, the least cost combination is at the point of tangent the ISO quant curve on the ISO cost line. So this is the nuts of the producer's equilibrium point, student. In nuts, students, in a conclusion, we must say that the producers are we get the maximum situations of the output, or we get the producers equilibrium point on those situations where the entrepreneur are we get the maximum productions, and it will situated on those points where the ISO quant curve touch the ISO cost line, where it is possible, there the equilibrium, maximum equilibrium is possible. So this is all about the uh, ISO quant curves, or we can say the producer's equilibrium, by the use of by the combinations of uh, ISO quant curve, or we can say the production equilibrium by the ISO quant curve. So I hope you are better understanding about the concept. It is a small concept, students. So I think it is enough for your study purpose. And later on, students, our next lecture is be based on the cost analysis. I think in this is enough for the productions. And for the purpose of PG students, another separate lectures are be published on Cobb Douglas production functions. But I think this is not be important for first same preparation students in new education policy. So as per the your syllabus is concerned, we are going to discuss on cost analysis on our next lecture. You must be have to subscribe this channel, watch these channels for your next study. I hope you are enjoying this lecture. I hope you are liking this channels. If as you must be subscribe it and increase the family of this channel, students. Thank you, students. Thanks a lot. Thanks for viewing it. Thanks for watching our channel, and thanks for your support, student. Thank you. Thanks a lot.